today was not just today wasn't just a win for Owen Heinecke. It was another public reminder that the NCAA's eligibility system is broken, inconsistent, inept, and not getting any better. I was in the courtroom for the decision, and now we're going to tell you what this means for the future of the Oklahoma Sooners, the SEC, and college football as a whole. It's Sooner Intel time. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Sooner Intel. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, along with my co-hosts, Kchris Griffin of the Horns Down podcast, along with Mr. Mason, Chris Mason of Sooners 360. You love college football, especially the Oklahoma Sooners. You know you're in the right place. Before you forget, smash that red subscriber button on all three channels. Like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss a moment of Sooner Intel. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Says we're getting some quality issues. I don't know if that's just BS or what. What's up, everybody?
What's up, y'all? Jason, great to see you back. We will be able to see you clear. It's coming in a little bit more, a little bit
Yeah, it's
clearer
pretty
now.
bad. It's pretty bad. Let me I'm gonna take a quick. I'll be right back.
All right, cool. Chris Mason, Chris Mason, Chris Mason. Heineke's back, man. I think
Yes.
that's really the focal point of it. Um, really excited about this, what this means. I mean, we're going to talk about this obviously with Jason. We'll talk about it from every angle. Um, just from what he saw at court today, obviously Heineke being back, which is obviously the most important out of all of this. But there were some things that kind of came out of this as well that were really important to note, especially what Judge Balkman ended up ruling, and also just adding to it as far as in his what you can call, I guess, verbal opinion, right? But no, I mean, I will. I'll run my victory lap here in a little bit, but at the same time, I just want to keep the focus on Heineke because I think that's the most important thing. I guess until Jason gets back, we can just talk. But Chris Mason, just your first initial reaction whenever you saw the decision come out.
Well, I think I was very happy. I mean, beyond what I think this does for OU, I was just very happy for Owen. I felt like this was the fair, logical decision the NCAA should have really come to internally a couple of months ago. I'm obviously the it looks like the Owen Heineke's legal team kind of knocked it out of the park, and were able to find some precedent cases that were compelling. And when you look at the other examples out there, it's pretty obvious that there's some COVID relief was due to Owen Heineke in this situation. But I'm extremely happy for the kid. It's obvious when you see him at spring practice coaching up our young linebackers, that he wanted to be part of this team. He wanted to return to OU. This was not just some money grab NIL move decision. And if that's the motivation of some guys, that's fine. Now, I'm not criticizing that, but it was clear for Owen that he wanted to come back and be part of this team, and be part of this Sooner defense, and Sooner squad for 26. So I'm just extremely happy for him individually,
I think
from that aspect.
I think one of the most important things that you can do when you bring your client in there into the courtroom, one of the things you have to do is kind of paint that picture as well. It's a combination of things that you have to do as an attorney, but you have to paint the story for the judge, for the jury, for everybody that's going to be in there, right? And so the way that they postured him, the way that they, painted the picture for him was that, hey, this is a kid who was not able to achieve his dream of playing high level Division I football for the school that he always dreamed of playing for. And so they were able to tie that back to the time where he was a kid and playing for the Houston Sooners, different things like that. So I thought it was very descriptive, with a lot of the tweets and everything that I was following today as far as what they were trying to do. It was a really good picture how they framed it. Boomer 129. He says, Chris, what were those attorney billable hours? So again, like I said in one of the past pods, and I was talking to my uncle the other day about it. These were two hard hitting firms that were going against each other because I think the NCAA reached out and had maybe retained some of the services of like Gables and Gottwall or whatnot down there in Tulsa, which is a huge firm, but like McAfee and Taft, who represented Owen Heinecke. Like when we're talking about these firms, that's like 300, it's like 300, 350 and up, probably even more than what I'm thinking right now. But I know the billable hours are high up there. So these are two really, really reputable firms. They have some really, really good attorneys. They try to get the top of the line, the ones who come straight out of law school ready to work, and obviously the high rollers as well. But, there's great attorneys everywhere. I will say that. It doesn't matter what firm you're at. You can find a great attorney here in Oklahoma. But regardless, though, I think the thing is that you had two firms that knocked it out of the park today with what they were trying to present. But at the same time, I just think that the avalanche that they brought with not only the emotion, the way that they painted the picture for Owen, but also Chris Mason. If we're just being really honest, brutally honest, the arguments that they had were just so. They weren't powerful. They weren't moving or anything like that. They were just based on factual, hard evidence of concrete stuff that had actually happened. And I think that we talked about that was the simple fact that was it within his control, right? I know the NCAA, that's really what this case boiled down to. Was it with what were the circumstances within his control that he controlled his fate as far as going to deciding to go to Ohio State? It was not. It was clear as day. It was not. And I think that was the most intriguing part of it to me was the simple fact that COVID affected him in so many different ways. Um, First off, directly and indirectly, because you look and see all these cases that they brought down the line. But I just thought it was really interesting what happened today. And again, Judge Balkman, I definitely had faith because I've been before Judge Balkman and a lot of those Cleveland County judges before. I'm a Norman resident. I practice a lot in Norman. So I've been before those judges before, and those judges are really good judges. And Judge Balkman is up there in my book. So definitely happy with the with what happened today, and again, just really happy for Owen because he made me believe. He made me believe one of the first times, and this is OU hat aside, all the rest of that, just being just a normal person. I would say he actually made me believe out of most of the cases. This is not necessarily just a money grab. It's not necessarily just positioning himself for something in the future. This is like something that he actually wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, I got that sense too, that was was a powerful presentation from Owen. We managed to get BV off the stand in under 2 hours, I think, which was I think key. To get that joke in. But obviously, I think Brent I think Brent kind of barking back about some of the questions from the NCAA lawyers was kind of amusing. Obviously, Jim Nagy, I think, presented another good viewpoint, and then I think that it sounds like the Bishop Kelly coach was also, I think, key in sort of this connecting the emotion and connecting what this, how much Owen was impacted by COVID and how his recruiting was really, it was not a standard recruiting. This wasn't a standard year. And he was basically he went to Ohio State to play lacrosse because that's really the only significant opportunity he had, say for enlisting in the Army or Navy. And I've got, and let's not kid ourselves. That's, we don't want people idly, getting acceptances to those academies who aren't serious about it, right? That it's their only option to play football. I don't think that's not really the point of going to those two places. I don't think we want, and from a bigger picture view, you don't want someone just sort of passively going to one of the academies to play football. That's not the purpose of those institutions. So I was happy to see those arguments had weight, and it was it was a good day. It was a good day for good win.
Okay.
If sounds like if this was a football game, perhaps Owen Heinecke's legal team won by a couple of touchdowns. But I'll leave you to perhaps, offer your opinion on that. But that's what folks have been texting me all day saying.
I
So
believe it's a 44-10 game, and they get 10 points. They get 3 points for just showing up, right? Kind of lackadaisical. First drive, kind of getting to get around that 20-yard line. They hit like a 40-yard field goal. The next touchdown comes pretty late, right? But I think one thing I will say is that it kind of felt like they started swinging at air a little bit. One of the arguments I think was that was pointed out to me, or that stood out to me when I was reading kind of Stoya's and some other tweets or whatnot, just following up. Chris Mason, was the simple fact that the NCAA tried to argue that, oh, well, this is going to hinder the development of other guys. He's going to take the place of other guys. And I mean, obviously, you saw Nagy's talking about, dude, we could literally carry 104, 105 players, right? Like we can, there's other guys who can play this right here. And I'm like, if you are
we have 9 linebackers
yes, if you
on
are
the
the
roster
NC,
right now.
if you are the NCAA, I think my problem with that argument again, Chris Mason, like I've told you before on and off camera, like you got to go in there with your strongest arguments. And I know I'm playing Monday morning quarterback with these attorneys who are high level, right? Give them all the praise. But I think for the NCAA, just the argument itself, I think that's really weak, and that shows me that you're kind of you're scratching, you're clawing for every inch that you can get. Mainly because I mean that just our argument just doesn't make any sense because you have to come in there probably with an expert witness, somebody who can actually testify and say, will this actually hinder somebody's development, and then also you have to also take into the fact that last year they played five linebackers in a rotation. He wasn't even a starter until later into the season. What are we talking about? So I mean, I just think that some of the arguments down the stretch for the NCAA, that's why I say 44-10, because some of the arguments down the stretch for the NCAA, they just were not logical because you're like, hey, you guys again are basically skipping over everything that's actually happening in the world, actually happening on the field, and just going off of just these blanket statements that make no sense. So, when I saw them do that, I was like, got him, because you now you're backing them into a corner because now they're basically just checking off every single thing, just making sure they left no stone unturned. And so they need to have a case study or whatever the case may be. And I mean, there's other bigger details, but I just think that little minute things like that right there kind of show you how far, or excuse me, how small or the how shall I put this? Basically, that they ran out of hard hitting arguments, and they had to go to basically their bag and just figure out where's the last fry in that bag. And so when I see stuff like that,
Went to Plan B and C.
yeah, no, that wasn't Plan B. I was playing like E, F, and G, and I was just like,
Okay, all
dude,
right.
like, yeah, that I was like, that makes no sense, especially with what you're seeing them do on the field. But again, those videos, obviously you guys don't have to go back and watch those, but if you watch the video we did last Thursday and the video we did this past Sunday with Jay, you'll see kind of the two parts of the argument. We went through a lot of that stuff, and we pulled out the Jared Bernhardt case that I thought was something that was really important, but also just the cases that they had. I mean, it just continues to show the evolution of these rules, or the goalpost moving that I call it, right? But also
Yeah.
Chris Mason, I just say, like, I mean, there's just no. the NCAA is its own worst enemy in these cases because you have not made a uniform rule. You have not set a true precedent. The precedent continuously changes throughout each year, right? Each academic year, each sport year, whatever you're going off of. So I just think the NCAA just has a lot of issues that they need to resolve. But I think the most important thing that came out of this right here is that obviously, well, Judge Balkman did add to his, his ruling as far as there's nothing else that's going to be done on this. Like this is done at this level. So the only thing that they can do, they can't. There's no more motions. There's no anything else. But they can appeal it to the Supreme Court. Good luck with that. That's all I got to say on that, Chris Mason. Good luck with that. We don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, it just really seems like this should have been something the NCAA should have just offered the official waiver or negotiated a settlement where after the fact they said, well, they even had a reason. They even had, they could have even said, well, the swimmer case that they still haven't filed in their database. They could have said, well, we didn't have this information at hand due to an internal mistake. They should have just settled this, right? They This was not the hill to die on. This is not the case to the Aguilar thing. Sure, okay. Chandler Morris, fine, but this wasn't the case to go to this distance on. I mean, the NCAA just waste money. We just wasted money today, and I'm not sure, who foots where they get that money from, who foots that bill, but they just wasted money today, from everything that I can tell in terms of the stuff. I will have to give you your props. You definitely laid this out for listeners of our podcasts. The last two times you were able to talk about it, especially last Thursday when we gave you the whole runway to talk about it in the second half of the show. You nailed it. You laid out exactly how this thing was going to go.
Hey, I thank you for that because the whole thing is simply this right here. Like they had more focused arguments. Obviously, this is what they were focused on. They were paid for that. But man, I feel like Chris Mason, we really laid it out, just kind of really the game plan. And then also, it's an injunction. I think people forget about that. We'll talk about that here in a second. So Lucas James says, when I read that the NCAA lawyer in the closing argument was concerned about a seventh linebacker, I knew that they lost because that was such a dumb argument and they looked stupid. Yes. Sooners for life, he said the fight is not over, folks. The NCAA can appeal the decision to the Supreme Court. That is true. The only issue about that, Sooners for life, is a simple fact that once it's appealed to the state Supreme Court, that it could be 6 months, it could be a year. It could take a while for them to actually issue a ruling. Think about how Pavia played this last year. It's the same situation. And the Supreme Court is not necessarily doing any favors for OU or for anybody, but you also got to remember they have other cases that are before them right now. I definitely know that. Not because I'm an attorney, but because other stuff, my job. Anyways, so you have.
Well, and Chris, this is just one last point, just from
Go
your
ahead.
legal viewpoint. I'm guessing Judge Balkman probably has a pretty high success rate on his things being taken to the Supreme Court, agreeing with his rulings. I'm guessing that's the fact that this judge, who's disrespected, made this decision. That lends weight to the Oklahoma Supreme Court.
Not necessarily. I mean, he have a good
Okay.
track record or not. Not necessarily. I think the problem is just that when they get the case in, how long is it going to take for them to actually go through all this? Because what a lot of people don't understand. So I know at the firm that I was at, my mentor, she was the one who handled all the appellate work, right? So I did everything basically, kind of street level, right? Let's just call it that. But those appellate cases, man, I mean, they can go on for, 2 years or so because it's basically a ruling on the pleadings, but you're having to draft, do stuff timely, and you have all these different dates. It's not like a district court where you're just showing up and arguing stuff in front of the judge. No, you're basically going to like paper pleadings and all the rest of that stuff. It'd be different if it was going to like federal court. But when you go to Supreme Court, it's not like that. You're basically, hey, you're drafting. It is the briefs, all the rest of that stuff. It's a lengthy process, but it takes a while for the process to actually go through because there are certain dates. There's all types of stuff that you have to file. You have to make sure you get this stuff in, send it, get these transcripts, all of this different stuff. It's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and then on top of that, you have to remember Supreme Court is going to have a select number of cases that they're already reviewing as well. So, with that being said, it could be 2 months, it could be 3 months, it could be a whole year, it could be 2 years. Some of those appeals they go on for a while. The appellate level is kind of crazy. That's where it gets up there. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to know how to maneuver it. But I don't know. Maybe the NCAA tries to do something different. They try to file some type of emergency thing for the Supreme Court. But
Well, that's what they
that's going to
that's
work.
what they did with Ole Miss, but all that did was just get the Mississippi Supreme Court to just say no. They
Yeah,
didn't even bring them in. They didn't do a hearing or anything. They just said that they're not going to overturn it. So at the end of the day, it's all up to what does their docket look like for the rest of the year. I Something tells me that the state Supreme Court of Oklahoma isn't going to get a big hurry for the NCAA when they can't seem to get anything right. As far as they're all over the place with their decisions. When you and I mean, look look at the three things that he said as he got into his decision. It didn't even take him very long to read it. He got to talking about. He said, "Look, clearly, I think that the fact that they lied about the medical thing coming through, not a good thing. There was 71 medical pages for his injury in 2022. They acted like that wasn't included at all in the paperwork. That's not a good thing. Then you turn around and you start looking at some of this other stuff. I mean, look, you had essentially the same case with a women's hoops player that they took it all into consideration, everything that was going on. If you don't see that everything that Owen went through was, especially was a considerable pain in everybody's ass, but he couldn't really get recruited. That's why he had to choose to go into lacrosse. He actually had a scholarship and not just walking on and costing his family money. And they act Division two or service academy was the same thing as going to Oklahoma or Ohio.
Did Jason cut out again?
It
Oh, keep
it's
going.
just it doesn't make a lot of sense, and
Okay. No, hey, but no, Jason is making good points. He's making good points. It didn't make a lot of sense, but it goes to that bell. It goes to that whole point that we had. I said Bill, but it goes to that point that we had, Chris Mason, as far as what the central argument really was all along, which was it within his control? And I think both of us kind of concluded that even though 2021 was distancing itself away from what 2020 was, which is a lockdown, a global lockdown, right? Was supposed to be. 2021 was still affected by that, and I think you can see that when you start digging deeper into just a simple fact that hey, he played not only 15 minutes of a lacrosse season, Chris Mason, but he played 11 games of what typically is a 14-game season. So you're telling me that again, I don't want to beat a dead horse over the head, but I'm just saying like it just the arguments just down the stretch just were not logical. And I think another thing, hopefully I'm saying this correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris Mason. I know my uncle hit me up and he said that Stoya mention, or when those cases came down the line, when they were talking about the case that Jason was just talking about, which is really good that he brought up. Wasn't that a case, Jason or Chris Mason, that they didn't they like kind of withhold that information at some point, and then
yes,
they had to, yeah.
so they approved her in October of last year. And she's already played her volleyball season or whatever it was. I think basketball, I guess, maybe whatever it was. Um, she's already played her season. They withheld it, and they're as Cooper said, was laughable at best. You know, go ahead, Mr. Mason. You're muted though.
Chris Mason, you're muted.
we go. Wanted to give you guys room to talk. So it's one of those cases of did they withhold it deliberately, or are they just so incompetent they didn't know what they were doing? And
I don't know
maybe
what's
it's a bit
going
of
on.
maybe it's a bit of both with the NCAA these days. Sometimes you see conspiracy, and it's really just
Let me get
incompetence.
back
I
over
think.
here into this. I can pull it all up. I've got all the
If
information.
I may, while Jason's doing that, I'll just say this right here. Like, to that point, I think it's a little bit of it may be a little bit of both. If I just may be blunt, but that's like, I mean, that's law school basics right there. That is law school basics right there. That is something that you don't do. It's like this right here. If you're going into a trial, right, or a hearing like this, right, and you have six arguments. I mean, you have 6 points that you want to get across. You
Right.
want to show the judge when you're writing that brief or whatever that you're preparing, right, to write up about what's going on. You want to show the judge that, hey, these let's say you have six cases. These four cases show that clearly I'm correct, right? But you also want to get put in those two cases that are similar to this that the other side thinks, oh, I can win on this one, right? But you also want to show those and say, hey, I'm going to distinguish our case. Basically, I'm going to compare and contrast our case to this one and show you why these two cases mean nothing, right? And the simple fact is that I don't know what the NCAA's MO was about that, but you can't hide those cases. But the problem for the NCAA is that those are just two of probably thousands of cases just like that. So it's just at some point I knew again when we were kind of laying down the framework of what all this was going to entail, Chris Mason. I knew that McAfee and Taft lawyers were going to find somebody that's probably closer to the situation than even a Jared Bernhardt, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I think that that's the problem that the NCAA didn't necessarily foresee was that they would find these cases that were just so clear and near. But I mean, when you have all the resources that like a firm like that would have, I mean that's expected that you find stuff like that. So I thought that wasn't necessarily groundbreaking, but it was crucial to prove the
But it
point.
was groundbreaking, though, a
Yeah,
little bit, right? I mean, when you think about, they literally withheld information that
yeah,
their member schools would be able to, they should be able to look at for precedent.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that is
They got
groundbreaking.
caught.
That is the epitome of doing dirty shit. It's dirty business that the NCAA is doing, and it's nothing new. I mean, we all know that this is nothing new for the NCAA. This is how they roll. But at the end of the day, Chris, I mean, man, there's no way that you can say that they weren't doing this on purpose. They literally they denied it. Part of the
Jason cutting out again.
A little bit.
Um, no, yeah, I mean, if it just kind of going off, just continue what Jason is saying. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a strong possibility of that. I don't want to point fingers at everybody and say they were doing that, but Jason, if you're back, go ahead. Chris Mason, if you want to chime, well,
y'all go ahead. I'm gonna try to fix this.
okay,
Okay.
This is bad.
Chris Mason, you
Yes.
chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes with bureaucracies, you see evil intent where it's just, outright incompetence. I think this is probably just I'd like to think that this was more a case of incompetence than some. Let's bury this thing because it'll cost us in the Owen Heinecke case. I'm just not sure the NCAA is as evilly efficient enough to be able to pull that off. But yeah, it's a bad look, right? I mean, Chris, you can definitely provide the legal context, but every every Law and Order episode I've ever watched, anytime every time Jack McCoy was caught holding back evidence, it didn't go very well. So that
He
this this
never,
this is every judge in fictional law and real law hates parties holding back evidence
he
and
don't, he
and
don't.
does not look favorably on that.
Yeah. You don't do that because here's the thing, Chris Mason. When you're going to a hearing like this, I call it the ABC method. I got it from my mentor. Get to the point, dude. Judge does not want to be there for the whole alphabet. They want you to get to the point. Let's go from there. Let's settle what we can settle beforehand, and then let's just get to the basics, right? What are we really here for? Let's go to a comment real quick. Trojan Fight said there's a narrative going outside of OU and Oklahoma that this was more won because of an OU alum ruling on the case. I would say look at Ole Miss with Chambliss as well. And if the NCAA wants to do anything about it, what they should have done from the get-go was file a motion to transfer venue. That's all that they had to do. If they wanted to transfer it all the way to K County, which is up there by the Kansas border, if they wanted to transferred to Osage County in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. They probably could have did this, right? But you have to actually do your job. You have to actually fight and litigate the case. You can't leave anything up for chance. So just on the reasonable side, as far as everything, I would say look around. Everybody else is getting their cases there at the district court level. It has to go somewhere. If you're not going to file that type of motion to at least try to get it moved, hey, sorry about you. So that fixes that on both sides. Robert Cotton, he says a simple rule saves everyone time and money. When you enroll as an 18 or 21-year-old, your athletic eligibility ends in the calendar year. When you turn 23 or 24, taking in consideration medical and service. Something like that. I think something like that. I wouldn't be mad at that. But Chris Mason, until Jason gets back or whatnot, let's kind of switch it back to this right here. I know there's people in here in the chat that are talking about where does Cole Sullivan fit now and all the rest of this stuff. Defense rotation will be a beast. We know that. And again, people, we played like 4 or 5 guys last year. And I think you kind of circled the wagon once you got into like that last bit of the season because you needed, who was playing the best football at that time. And it was Kip, Heinecke, and Kobe was out there for sure.
He was hurt. He was hurt for a stretch.
He was hurt for a stretch.
In the Tennessee game, I think he got like a hamstring pull, and he was a little limited for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, you still had that rotation of guys. So, I mean, that's just kind of where we're at. But Chris Mason, I mean, with Heinecke back, I think that's obviously the natural place that it would go. Where do you like what's your thoughts about this rotation and just kind of what this means?
Well, I think OU now has the ability to play 4 linebackers and rotate that depth like they did last year. And you have, I think, Nesta, Sullivan, Kip, and Owen give you, and I think that's kind of there's some natural combinations there with Kip and Owen both being will linebackers a little more than Mike linebackers. So you can go with Sullivan and Nesta out there, new linebackers, combine them with a veteran, and then you've got the ability to rotate those 2 groups and keep those guys fresh. I do think you'll see probably 3rd and long, close game. You're going to see probably a little bit more of a Kip-Owen combo as the 2 backers, depending upon how OU is structurally. What personnel groupings are they going to use on 3rd and long? But I think the area where this helps OU the most is we know about the Taylor Heim injury. We know Jacob Curry got hurt. We know Bo Jandro's not been playing. And we know Marcus James has sky-high potential, but he's been in a blue jersey all the spring. So while everyone says, he looks great, but he's not hitting anybody yet. And so he's developmentally just a little bit behind because of that injury. What this does is this gives you 4 linebackers that you're going to be able to rotate. And then I think it allows you to use Cole Sullivan as a big cheetah because you can play him as more of a traditional Sam linebacker role. Mm-hmm. I know you playing more of a traditional base 4-3 like we would have, during the when you played in K-State and Nebraska, the option defense offenses of the past. Funny enough, you'd have Brent and Mike Stoops had a 4-3 setup. They would run 3 linebackers. So I think you can play Sullivan as your big cheetah, If you go back and look at some of the things Sullivan did at Michigan, he was probably their best coverage linebacker. He got several interceptions last year, pass deflections. So that I think you'll see all three linebackers on the field whenever the opponent is sort of saying, "Hey, we're gonna come out in 12 formation, and we're gonna try and pound the rock at you." I think for Brent, I think Brent's like, great, bring that on. I love that all day. That's what I grew up stopping. So you're kind of like playing into Brent's. You're falling into Brent's trap if you want to play big, big possession, big personnel football against Brent. From that perspective, because you can always go with two big defensive ends as well. Now they've got enough defensive end talent that you could go with, Wine and Ozawalu as your two D ends, and then you could play Sullivan as a true Sam linebacker. Then that he could play at the Sam linebacker position, which is what the Cheetah really is in a true 4-3 configuration. But I think the big thing is, you've got two sets of linebackers now. You can go Nesta with, I'm trying to think what the best combo is. It's probably something along the lines of Nesta with Owen and maybe Kip with Sullivan. Sullivan playing the Mike role, I'm guessing, but that's kind of a stab. I mean, I do one thing to file away is, talking to some folks is that one of the things about Owen getting ready for the combine and getting ready for the draft, because he didn't know how this ruling was going to go, is he's in like NFL shape. So he's in the best physical shape of his life, and he's dropped his body fat percentage, and he thinks he can probably add some weight. I'm guessing he probably can add just a little weight to get up to 235, because he's right around 230 right now. I think that's what he ran at the combine, 228, something like that. So Owen's in a little better position to play some Mike and to be a Mike linebacker when you're facing some smaller attacks, just some one tight end stuff or four wide, things like that. I think Owen has the ability to do that. I don't know if Owen would be better at Cheetah than Sullivan. I think that's something you can shake out, and if Owen can play Cheetah, you can use him as the big Cheetah, that works too. So I think you've got some. I just think whenever Brent has flexibility in personnel and the ability to throw different personnel groupings and different folks out there, that's when he's at his best, right? We saw that last year, that when he was able to use Kendall Daniels or Reggie Powers. So I think basically what you're saying is the Cheetah formation for OU has gone from being Reggie Powers and Jeremiah Newcomb to being Reggie Powers, Jeremiah Newcomb, and Owen Heinecke and Sullivan, because you now know that, because I think James Nesta's had a great spring, so I think you're seriously going to want to play Nesta quite a bit as well, because you want those four linebackers to be playing a lot, because you're always having an eye to building depth to 27, right? And then if you have Nesta and Sullivan returning, well, that's two serious guys at backer. That helps you greatly. But yeah, I think the one element that we can't overlook is the leadership Owen brings back to this team. He's an alpha out there. You see him coaching up the linebackers all spring. He could have been doing anything this spring. He could have been in Dallas working out with his combine guy, getting ready for the NFL. But he came back. He was in Norman, and he's been coaching up the backers. He's been a pseudo linebacker assistant. So now you sort of he's back in that mentor role on the field all game. And I think between Kip and Owen, and Peyton Bowen and Taylor Wine and David Stone. I mean, this OU team has some of their best elite guys as also the leaders on this team, the alphas you need to be an elite defense to go through this schedule OU has coming up. And you have to love the fact that it looks like OU would have Owen Heinecke for the Michigan and UGA games. Start of the season, you have Kip and Owen can be running things. Robert Wellgear has a great point. Let me put it up real quick. Is Owen can be your green dot linebacker, right? And for those two games, and it's their early games. Both Michigan's going to be sort of rebuilding whatever they're going to be. I think we won't know that, until we see them. But if you're thinking about the fact that OU's going to have, I guess, 10 guys who started for them last year back on defense, I mean, and Owen Heinecke is one of those leaders and is the guy going to be calling you've got a veteran linebacker who's going to be calling the plays for the Sooners. I think you can't underestimate that leadership, that play calling, getting us lined up correctly, not busting factor of having a veteran linebacker like that, who's getting the plays from Brent.
Jason, jump back in there.
I don't know if it's going to stick with it or not, but the way that it sounded, he's going to be the Mike linebacker to me. I mean, I could see them moving him to Cheetah if possible, but he talked about the green dot stuff. I think that's going to kind of go back and forth between him and Kip, depending on how it works itself out. One of the things that they brought up a lot, was, and I put it in the story that I wrote there too, was about the fact that I was talking about how he had again.
Yeah, it's doing it again.
Yeah, just curse tonight.
Yeah, it's I'm in a bad area for this Starlink, I think.
Keep going. It looks
Okay, so anyway, he was talking about the statistical, he only played like 20% of snaps until he ended up starting the second half of the year. Then he's playing 70% of the snaps. He had 12 and a half tackles for loss, and he was talking about if you were able to back that up with 20 and a half next year, next season, then you're in the running for the Buckets Award at middle linebacker. So it didn't sound to me like that was imminent for them to go and bring him over the Cheetah position. It sounds to me like that's kind of Reggie Powers' spot right now. And I know that you were just talking about Newcomb. He's another guy that they've been talking about a little bit with that. They want Reggie Powers on the field. They want Owen on the field as well, right?
I think it's more just a disguise game. What BV likes to do on the back end. Man,
That's fair. I would agree with that.
That profile that I sent you guys, the match quarters, guys, definitely go check that out if you're on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. But go check that out, man. It's some really good stuff. He's breaking down these defenses or just how they're clogging everything, especially in the run game, but also just showing a lot of really good, like all 22 film, NFL and college, just, what you're doing on the back end as far as like, hey, what does that picture look like after the disguise and everything, right? But man, I didn't realize how much that obviously what they like to do with that cheetah position and have it kind of be a little bit of both safety and down there, right? But man, when you go back and watch some of Kendall Daniels' film, especially on all 22, when you can see him, that dude was playing. He was playing safety an awful lot. I was like, damn. Like I didn't realize like they were disguising some stuff and he was out there literally covering slots and everybody like he was manning up with people out there, and he was, especially on some of the zones and stuff too, he was really active on the back end. It was just like, hell, he's sitting there just waiting on you. If they throw the ball to you, it's something's gonna happen. You get knocked the hell out. He's gonna miss a tackle. You get a touchdown. Or he's probably going to get an interception. So I just think it's the disguise game. With BV, after that ball snaps, you never know. But I don't think it would be something that would be religious. But some of the teams that we play this year with their heavy personnel or what they're going to have to go to, like a Kentucky, especially with that West Coast philosophy, as I like to call it, that short pass game, just kind of moving the chains here and there. Will Stein, obviously, he likes to get up and down the field, but I think for this year, even with Minchie and what he has, I think he knows that coming to an OU or going to all these other places as Kentucky, hey, you're going to be able to play hard-nosed football, but at the same time, like, just their game style. Some of the styles of game that we play, I could see it here and there in some packages, but I don't think it'd be something that they stick to, like, they commit to it, right? But no, I think the main thing for me, honestly, guys, is just that I don't think Cole Sullivan or a James Nesta gets swept up in this. Again, they've played those guys. At some point, they will circle the wagon, and hopefully all four of those guys are there and they're healthy throughout the year. But I think one thing that goes without being said, and hopefully you guys will back me up on this on the chat and in the chat, that with Heineke back,
Yeah.
we may have, I think we have a top five linebacker room in the nation, and maybe
It could end up being it could be the best one. Maybe not
could be the
this
best one.
season. Again, I think Kip Lewis is the best linebacker in the country. And if Owen is as good as if he continues to play the way that he played last year and elevates like what BV was talking about, because that was the main thing that I got out of BV's time up there, was that he was very stern about the fact that, look, he hadn't even scratched the surface yet as to what he can do, because he just hadn't gotten an opportunity yet. And you're talking, the NCAA is arguing that, you're in good shape to go be a fourth or fifth rounder. And he's like, that doesn't even make any sense. You're talking about going to the most, the toughest league in the world, essentially. He kept calling it, what was it that he called it over?
I forgot exactly what he called it, but I know.
Yeah, it's pretty good though.
It's along the lines of what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's essentially saying, but if you come back here and you elevate, because there's no time to develop at the NFL level, you already have to be there. You got to be ready to rock and roll. They ain't got time to develop you. You're not a quarterback. They're gonna mess with that. At the end of the day, and they don't really mess with quarterbacks for very long at the NFL level either. You know what I mean? So once you get to the NFL, you're supposed to be ready to rock and roll. He feels like he can still take a giant leap forward. Both him and Nagy talked about him being a Butkus Award kind of guy, if he's able to elevate the way that they believe he's going to, athletically speaking. His former high school coach was the same way. Look, you can sit there and talk about biases coming from guys. I understand that, what you're talking about, if you want to say that. At the end of the day, who are you going to believe? Brent Venables as a defensive guy, that he can move him and he can be that good? Or are you going to believe this attorney that was saying, well, I bet the number 7 guy would wish, he could be number 6, talking about if Owen comes back. You know what I mean?
You see what I'm saying, Chris Mason? You see how crazy that sounds? Like, that's just not logical, man.
It was just weird, bro.
It just makes it.
It's not going to put a stain on anything, though. Guys. At the end of the day, look, this should show everybody. The main thing that I want to, and I haven't written a column yet, but just even what I wrote in the story, if you don't notice that they are getting kicked in the teeth time after time because they are completely inept at this stuff. And you know what it is? Collective bargaining. They don't have any rhyme or reason for what they're doing. And until they do, it's something that the athletes are also have something to do with it with the rules that they go by, this is going to continue to be a thing. I can't believe that Iowa is going to put up with them vacating wins and stuff from a couple of years ago over tampering. I wouldn't put up with anything from the NCAA right now. I wouldn't. Kchris, can you explain to me where are they? Are they just there now? This is what I wanted to ask you. Do you believe that they're just there now so that they can be the whipping boy for everybody?
I again, you both can attest to the fact that I've said on this podcast plenty of times. I think the NCAA has. If you ask me what I think the NCAA is truly doing, I think that they have went down the route of let's just self-sabotage for a while and just make them crawl back to us and say, hey, we need you guys now. And boy, has that backfired. That was not the plan, because at least from the outside looking in, that's exactly what it looks like. Let them have it. Let them run rampant until to the point that they do it. Because I posed a question to my aunt the other day. I was like, NCAA should just break off from the P4 conferences, let them be their own thing, and just run the G5. It would be a lot like overseas basketball, where, hey, all you have to really worry about is the influx of transfers from these P4 schools back down to the G5 schools. But he even made a point. He said if the P4 breaks away, you think the G5 really wants to be stuck with them and say, hey, now I'm with stupid, right? That's not going to happen. And I said, yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but I mean, you would think that something like that would work because then they would have a little bit more power. It would kind of, the reason why I think of that, because I feel like, okay, maybe they would have a Yo Mark type of swagger to them to where they make everything look like it's great, but we all know that it's still a bad product, Big 12. But I don't know. I don't know, Chris Mason. I feel like I've been preaching to the choirs. I feel like I'm just this is probably the most realistic I've really been about college football. But when it comes to the NCAA, it just doesn't make any sense. And back to our conversation that we had offline in our chat, like I was telling you, Jason, Chris Mason, the biggest thing about it is that the NCAA is making a lot of knee jerk reactions off of executive orders, off of
Seems like pettiness and like just silly
it's
stuff. Like
pettiness,
when?
silly stuff, not addressing everything like they should have. Again, there should be some type of consistency amongst this because we can go all the way back. What's the most famous case in my mind? Not the most famous case, but to me, it's the most famous. That tight end that wanted to transfer from like Illinois or something like that because his mom or whatever was like about to pass. It was something to
Oh,
that
the one that
sports
went
name.
to North Carolina, the receiver.
No, no, no. It was another kid who was denied an eligibility waiver to like or transfer back to a place, but then they let Justin Fields transfer. Right? It just
Right.
yeah. I mean, they've been doing this the entire time. It's just now that you're caught. We caught you in the act. And so when you don't have any policies, when you don't have anything else, I can keep going on and on about it. It's just never going to make any sense. Who's the next kid that's going to do this, right? The problem is that they did this
Well,
to
there's like these something cases on the books right now. They've only got to some of them.
not only that, but the biggest thing to me, honestly, what this all pinpoint, where this all the problem started was COVID because they made don't get me wrong, the NCAA did do some good things. Some good things did come out of the whole COVID protocols and all the rest of that stuff. There were some good results, but they did not look too far ahead in the future and see how problematic this was going to be. Because the whole thing is that the only place where 25 to 28-year-olds should be playing college football is BYU. There's no other place in the nation that should
That's
have
what Andy and
people.
Ari were talking about on that show. Did you watch that whenever I sent that to you?
Yes,
I did. I did. I watched that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
that, that
interesting stuff. It
that's
was
the only
interesting
place.
stuff.
Go ahead, Chris Mason.
Yeah.
it
I mean,
is.
I, I think to me the NCAA just this wasn't a fight they should have fought. They should have settled this, given him the waiver. They could have then had the PR of being pro athlete, even though they're not really pro athlete, student athlete, but they could have at least fashioned a PR statement that would have said that. And I do think you have to wonder. This is a clinical designed argument about eligibility. I think you have to wonder how many kids are gonna take this. High school seniors who were seniors in 2020 who are looking for an additional eligibility year are going to take this well-fashioned, well-constructed argument and try and make appeals for additional years of eligibility. And the NCAA's now opened this up because they didn't settle this and just give Heineke his waiver and move on from that aspect. I think this is another. They've created the Tulsa lawyers that working for Owen Heinecke have basically crafted another smart bomb to get eligibility if other folks want to use it to kind of use a hack together term there. I mean, that's what it looks like from my perspective. So I would like to change pace for just one quick question while we got a good period of Jason connectivity, I think. So to Jason and Chris, does Owen Heinecke coming back and what we think that means for OU's defense, does this change anything about I'm talking just a knee jerk reaction today? Obviously, you guys, I'm going to go see the spring game. You'll both, I think, hopefully be able to see the spring game Saturday, so we can have an intelligent conversation about it. Since I can't see it, since they won't stream it. Does this change any of your just knee-jerk reaction views of how you think OU's season could be? Getting Owen Heinecke back. Oh, getting Owen Heinecke back.
Not really. I mean, I think it's a help, especially when you just had Taylor Heim go down for the season, right? So I think it became probably what it was a week ago, right? That being said, I think he is a leader of this team. I mean, everything I heard all day was that how important he is to the university or to the defense. And at the end of the day, I think that there's just so much talent on that side of the ball that I'm not really. I don't think maybe they're not as great as they were last year on that side. I think they're going to be pretty close. But the difference in this year and last year is going to come on the offensive side of the ball if they are able to
if they can make those changes
forward, right? If they can take the step forward that everybody's expecting them to take forward, I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference between them taking a step back and taking a step forward and possibly competing for a national championship. Because with or without Heinecke, I think they were going to be one of the best defenses in the country, at least one of the top 15 or so, right?
So do you think if let's just say I hypothesize this moves them back into the top 5 defensive range, does that alter your thinking any, Jason, or is it still we got to see the offense move from? I'm just throwing numbers out here. So guys, don't correct me. We still need to see the offense move from like 75 and 80 to like 35 or 40. You still think that's the deciding factor?
They've got to run the football in the top 50s, I would think.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think
their
if you're in the
offensive
top 50
efficiency
of running, then I think that takes pressure off of John Mateer, which helps you and takes pressure off the defense for that matter. I think the defense was the best defense in the country, period, last year. Statistics didn't say so, but they also played a lot better teams than a lot of those teams played that had higher ranked defenses, right? But they led the country in sacks. They led they were second in tackles for loss, turnovers, all that stuff. I mean, they led in pretty much everything. At the end of the day, they were on the field more. I mean, it's what we've always talked about back in the day with Lincoln. Even if you had good players on that side of the ball, you weren't playing football. This is where we have to see that. I think that's the next evolution of this football team. If you're going to see them really compete for a national championship, they're going to play complementary football, which means the offense has to be explosive, but it also has to be able to move the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Chris, does the Owen thing move your meter any, or are you in a similar boat to Jason that this just maybe makes a very good OU defense? It moves the meter a little bit there, but overall, it's the other side of the ball that is going to be the more of the deciding factor.
The other side of the ball will be the controlling factor this year, mainly because you know what you're going to get from the defense. The defense is going to keep you into those games. But I think that the Owen Heinecke thing, it definitely it gives me a lot more confidence in his defense because it allows. It's yet again another piece that you can add to this equation that allows some of these younger guys that we're betting on to kind of find their way, right? And what I mean by that is that it's going to allow them to do what? Just do their job. And I think that's all we're asking for them to do in this defensive scheme, mainly because of just how everything is so interlocked, intertwined, and how everybody plays off of each other. You watch that; it's not necessarily. I remember I used to call it complete chaos. It's not necessarily complete chaos. It's an organized flow on the back end of that defense with what BV is running, and having a guy like that that's going to be able to be crucial, who's going to be crucial as far as being like a green dot guy to where they can get those calls late, right? BV loves to call a play 5 seconds left on 5 seconds left on the clock.
Once they adjust, right? He wants to wait until they adjust to them, and he wants to adjust right at the end.
Exactly. So having a guy like that is crucial because you sit there and you say, hey, we're betting on guys like Nigel Smith, Trent Wilson, the Okoyes, who haven't had those consistent roles or who haven't even been in the rotation like that, right? So he allows those guys to go out there and focus on stuff because he can help position guys, see what they're not seeing, blah blah blah, all the rest of it. And then again, it allows Cole Sullivan, who I think is having an expedited with all the reps that he's got, expedited just processing with Dryling, and then also obviously Godwin and all the rest of them in BV. So I think that it helps expedite that, right? And then just another veteran guy inside that linebacker room for Nesta and all the rest of them to continue to feed into them what they need to do, what they need to see, exemplify that and everything,
Sure.
every rep, all the rest of that. So I think it bodes well for us, especially on that front line, on the front seven or whatnot, just to make
I
sure
think
that
it
we
might be
have
better there, right? It should
yeah.
be better in the front four even look with our Mason. I know people are talking to being gone. The truth of the matter is, you might have more talent on the line that's going to play now
Yes.
I mean,
overall.
yeah. I mean, Okoye, as Jim Nagy's indicated, is, NFL guys were asking about him just when he was working out, on the sidelines. So I think it's an interesting debate. I do think, Chris, I'm a little bit with you as well. I think Jason's points on the offense are all well made. We've kind of made them before. I do think, though, bringing Owen back and his leadership and that linebacker depth and just,
I would give you that though. I do want to.
Just can't have injuries. Yep, Jimmy Satterfield, you are definitely correct. He said
yeah.
defense will be legit, just can't have injuries.
But the one thing, I had one last little point, and then
Go ahead, go ahead, go
what
ahead.
is that Brent's best defenses have elite linebackers.
Yes.
And when you bring Owen Heinecke back, you are bringing back a guy who potentially could have 15, 16 tackles for loss, a couple of picks, 3 or 4 sacks, and just an on the field leader that's keeping your scheme going down over down. And I think, if we can just carve out some offensive improvement and the defense is playing the same as they were last year, I think that the defense can. The complementary thing, which Jason is just so right on, is if the offense is playing better, and it keeps the defense fresher, the defense and we have slightly more leads, right? And we're not just always playing possession to possession. Teams are in a panic to trying to have to get back against us because they know our offense can milk clock and put points on the board and extend leads further. Then that's when offense. We saw in Brent's first sort of tenure here in the early 2000s. We put points up, and we had pretty good offenses during some of those years, and then Brent and teams would panic trying to come back against OU, and Brent would just feast on them, turnovers, 4 and outs, and then the offense would
Exactly
then.
what happened to Clemson too, man.
And that's what Clemson was doing as well. And then the offense would get back on the field, put the game, will put a drive together, get another field goal, and then all of a sudden teams would find themselves, well, we're down 13 points and there's 5 minutes to go, and we just can't move the ball on Oklahoma because they're fresh, and I'm one dimensional. I've got to throw the ball every down, and Brent's blitzing. He's killing my quarterback. Just some of the stuff we saw. I think the best example of that, I think, was the Bama game last year. And Jason, you were there. You were just seeing that Brent. It was a one possession game, but he just sort of had Ty Simpson and the Bama offensive
They
line
were
on.
never really in danger of losing that game. Aside from it, they
They
made a
were on
mistake
tilt.
and lost it. Really,
Yeah, they were on tilt. I mean, it was just. So I think that's the one thing that you think about. If you can get some offensive improvement with Owen coming back, you maybe have that. You maybe have just a extra assurance that, okay, you've got another leader, alpha closer, and when Brent smells blood in the water, OU's up by 10, 14 in the fourth quarter. I think you're going to see those Owen Heinecke plays that lead to turnovers, you know, turnover on downs, deflections, sacks, and just those things where teams are just they're panicked because they can't, unlike last year where they're like, well, if we go ultra conservative on offense, we can just hang in the game because OU's offense isn't playing well and can't control the ball and can't extend leads. If the offense can do that, then this defense with Owen Heinecke just becomes even deadlier in the fourth quarter because with that depth at linebacker, you have the ability to play Sullivan at Mike or Nesta at Mike, and you can rotate Kip and Owen in, in with those guys. I think that's where Owen coming back raises the level of the defense to, if we can get something else going on offense, we maybe can, we maybe it won't be in those kind of tight one possession games that we were in last year. And, Josh Pate, it was kind of saying that he thought, oh, you might take a dip. And I think he was partly saying, I'm just not sure they can continue to win those one possession type games like that sometimes that evens out, or, it evens out a little bit, in some of the breaks in those kind of games. And I think what you'll see is with Owen coming back, the defense, given help from the offense, can extend some of those leads and make OU in a stronger position in the fourth quarter. A little bit like the Missouri game where we were up by two scores, right? And it was like, and Missouri was just pressing, and they just weren't able to really accomplish much.
All
Right.
facts. All
You
facts.
just didn't pull away enough, and it's the same thing
Yeah,
with LSU.
exactly. It should have been 24-7 instead of 17, right?
Yeah.
It should have been a bigger lead. It should have been a bigger lead.
And if you'd have been able to run the ball consistently, you would have been a bigger lead, right?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think we're all in agreement there that
Yeah, but I
like what
think that
we're hearing.
I think Owen coming back is a good thing. I think it's a
Okay.
good thing overall. I just don't know that it's the deciding factor on whether that defense is going to be good or not. I just don't think that that's the.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I mean, there are.
There-
I think Owens, he's a big piece.
Yeah.
He's a big piece, but I do think, completely off topic, out of left field. To me, the wild cards unknowns on defense are guys like Daniel Okoye and Cortland Guillory. If they take their games to elite levels, this defense has a different level to it.
Well, guys, I know we've been on here for an hour. We don't have to go into a huge spiel about the spring game, but
Gonna be back this
Jason,
weekend, and
Yeah.
this is still not going well. So
are you going to be at the spring game, Jason?
yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
Where are we
definitely-
gonna be? Where are we gonna be at?
I don't know. I think it's just you show up and you. I don't even think they have like a
Well,
signed
sign
seat like
seating
they
or
had
anything
last
like that,
year.
is there? No.
I didn't see that at all because the past few years they've had that. Then this year it was just kind of like you just show up. So we'll show up somewhere and get some good.
Well,
Good
I got
food.
you guys. I got you guys box seats at Denny's box. So just let me know where to send the passes.
Before we get up out of here, Jason, anything that you're really interested in seeing? I know Chris Mason and I have already kind of talked about it, so just kind of get your thoughts before we jump up off of
You
here.
know what I want to see. You know what I want to see.
Hey, I
your
said,
running
yeah, I
game.
was looking at the comments. I know what everybody
You
wants.
want to see Whit Newbauer running the option?
Yes. No. I want to see a heavy dose of puppies running the football, seeing if they bite.
Yeah.
And
And
old
tight
reports.
ends, 12 and 13 personnel. Yay! It would be so cool.
Old stories so far. Old reports indicate that both Hatton and Walker are vicious biters.
There you go.
But we'll get.
The fight doesn't look
I'm
like
jealous
Joe
you guys will
Watkins
get to
versus
see it.
Burks. What were you replacing there? What were you replacing with Burks?
Okay. Yeah, Trojan Fight usually has
It's
decent
an
comments, but
odd thing to say.
it's an odd comment, but okay. So
I mean, I ain't trying to hate on Dion or anything, but it's not like he was the most productive guy in the world.
That's factual.
I mean, I feel much better knowing we have some different wide receivers to match up with Satania. The stories out there is that Petit and Rogers have had a good second half of spring, that they're playing much better. So I will be interested to see Chris and Jason if we can see anything from the young puppy wide receivers.
That's all I want to see.
That'd be cool too. Yeah, I want to see the puppy receivers and running backs, and I want to see I want to do some good. I want to see some good stuff out of these tight ends. See if that's where
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
at. But I think, I mean, you know, I don't think they lie about all of that. You know what I mean?
Hayden Hansen
Was
sure has some talk to back up, and I'm expecting his 6'8", 270-pound ass to be hitting some people on Saturday.
he's been talking some shit. Yeah, he has.
He's been
Yeah,
talking a lot of shit about the run game, so it's
yeah, yeah.
time to come out and back it. And of course, he's certainly big enough to back that crap up. So okay,
He
go
said
do it, young
second
man.
leading receiver on the team. Whoop-de-doo. What does that mean?
Okay, all right. I mean, we
He was the
our
only other
passing game.
receiver that played all season.
Yeah, I mean, our passing game was a struggle last year. So you know, we'll see.
And again,
So,
I'm saying, what are we missing?
he had a good. I mean, his best games was Michigan and LSU. In between, it was a little. It was a little bit of where's Deion Burks every week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
End up dying anyway. I'm going to say goodbye.
All right.
So I'll hit you guys up. Thanks to everybody for coming in. You guys can say goodbye to them or see you on the next one. Y'all ready? Or
Yeah.
anything else from y'all?
No, we're good.
See you guys on Saturday. Make sure you check us out. I'll be on the morning show probably, maybe tomorrow morning. But for sure, we'll be back Saturday, and we'll be back for Big Monday as well. Obviously, make sure you guys are subscribed to all 3 pages. See you on the next one.